The number one trait of a high-performing team is psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
Psychological safety is really just a fancy word for trust, but there's even different types of psychological safety.
That's not to say, because I have to be loud in a room. It's like, what is the value that I'm bringing, and how can I voice that either in front of the room or behind the scene, but making sure that when we have something we want to say, follow through with it and speak without action.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liz.
My name is Tree.
And welcome to another episode of Hey, Don't Do That, where we explore the little things that no one tells you that have really big impacts on your motivation, effectiveness, and success.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're talking about being quiet or loud. So Tree, true or false? The loudest sound ever recorded was the launch of the Saturn V rocket at 204 decibels.
Wow, that sounds like it actually happened. True.
It did actually happen, but it's false. That was not the loudest sound ever recorded. So for reference, 160 decibels is usually considered like painfully loud enough to rupture somebody's eardrum.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1883, something went off at 310 decibels. So it was an island, Krakatoa, near Indonesia.
Okay.
It erupted, and it was regarded as the loudest sound humans have ever measured. 310 decibels. I feel like that would just blow out your eardrums.
So 160 is when your eardrums rupture.
It says 160 is considered painfully loud enough to rupture your eardrums.
And this was recorded
310.
in 1883?
Yeah, so it's super loud.
Huh. I'm impressed that they were able to record it back then.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah,
now, this episode is not about volcanoes. Okay, we said this episode was about being loud and quiet. I traveled for a conference, and before the conference, we did a one-day presentations program. Okay, with a group of women.
Okay.
They were amazing. And one of the things that someone had told us, she was a younger female, and she was very soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
She was just very quiet. She wasn't very loud. And she told us during the day, she's like, I want to be more confident, but I have a hard time speaking up. Mm. And so she said, so a lot of times I just don't say anything. Like, I'll just wait until someone asks me, or if I'm in a one-on-one, maybe I'll say something, but she just didn't speak up. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to tell her, don't be quiet. You have valuable things to say and contribute. Don't be quiet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And throughout the day, she got some strategies, she got some skills so she could speak up a little. But I think it's something a lot of people deal with.
Yes. And especially if you are new to a job, or you're like that junior role that you just got started, right? You don't want to speak up because maybe, hey, I don't want to mess up. I just want to be in the background. I'm new here. I'm learning, right? So as a leader, we have people starting on our team. As a leader, what would you tell those individuals who might be thinking, oh yes, I'm new. I'm still learning. I don't want to, poke the bear too much. Mm-hmm. What would you say?
Let's say one, we need people to poke bears, right? Organizations, they have to change and grow and evolve, and organizations don't change, people do. And so we need these people to speak up. There's a ton of research. Google's Project Aristotle. We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
The number one trait of a high-performing team is psychological safety. Mm-hmm. Psychological safety is really just a fancy word for trust, but there's even different types of psychological safety. Okay. Mm-hmm. There is do I feel safe enough to challenge?
Yeah.
And speak up and say, hey, I think there's a better way to do this. Or Tree, I disagree with you. Mm-hmm. I think you're wrong. Mm-hmm. It's about feeling safe enough. Inclusion safety is another kind. Do I feel safe enough that I can contribute in my own unique way?
Yeah.
And that's valued. especially when you're coming into a new team, maybe you see other people and you're like, oh, they're all doing it this way, but I would do it a different way. Is that okay? Like, is my opinion, is my way of doing things that's different than everybody's, is that going to be accepted? So as a leader, the very first thing we've got to do is we have to create an environment where it's okay for people to speak up. It's okay for people to say what's on their mind.
Yeah. And when we're joining a new team, I guess it's besides the what to say, it's also the how, right? It's the tone, right? So it's how we deliver those comments, or perhaps the way we bring it up could play a role in what we say, right?
Yeah.
Asking questions.
Yeah, and getting to know people on a personal level. So one thing we do in our office whenever anybody new starts is they get to put an hour on their calendar with everybody on the team, and there's no real agenda except get to know that person. Like, the only thing is get to know that person. Figure out where they grew up, what they like, what they don't like, how they got into the role. And it's literally just setting the foundation of building that relationship. So now maybe someone will feel more confident to speak up because they actually know the people in the room. Yeah. Versus just, I work with these people. Like, we know it's Tree, it's Jackie, it's Andy. Like, we know the people versus just we work together. It builds a deeper relationship. Yeah. So for those of us who may be new to a job or to an organization, that's one way for us to enhance our confidence is to connect with people. Right? The organizations, the leader should create that environment. For those of us, we can also take the initiative of how can I be intentional about connecting with people that I work with, so then I have a better understanding. So when I want to speak up, what I say would be more valid or be more relevant to the people, the stakeholders, the team members that I'm trying to pitch. Yeah, and sometimes it's when you're new. I think it's often overlooked, though, that when you've been in a role for a while, like, even then, sometimes we're pretty quiet because we don't want to ruffle feathers. Or we think, oh my gosh, I know what these people think, so I'm just not going to say anything. I think it can happen to people at any time. I think when we're new, we definitely want to set the tone of we want to hear you, so don't be quiet. Tell us what you think. It's the people who've been around for a while that sometimes we forget about, because we then, as leaders too, we just assume, well, if they have something to say, they'll say it. When maybe they don't. Yeah, so it's everybody, and don't just assume, but we got to ask and allow people to speak up. And I mean, what I enjoy is that we actually do that here on the team, where, like, for instance, annually we come together, we gather thoughts, right? It's a brainstorming session, and not just like Liz saying this is a new direction we're going. We actually brainstorm, and we're able to not be quiet and bring up different viewpoints. Yeah, if you're a leader and you want your team to get involved, like, you don't want them to be quiet, ask questions. Don't tell them what to do, ask them questions. As a leader, that's an incredible strategy to get people to speak up. You can have people write their thoughts down and then speak them. You can have them talk with one or two people. You know, it doesn't always have to be just say it in front of everyone. But as leaders, there's lots of ways you can create an environment where people are supposed to speak up. I think the harder part is when you're maybe not the leader, but you're sitting in that room, and maybe you have a leader who's not inviting opinions. Maybe they're not really asking a lot of questions, but you feel like you have something to say. And it's like, do I say it? Do I not say it? Yeah. That's a tough spot to be. Have you seen the movie with Matt Damon called We Bought a Zoo? Yes. So it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just like a super wholesome, feel-good movie. I love those kind of movies. So in the movie, Matt Damon, and he says it a couple times, but like he gives an example of when he met his wife. And he said he was like walking by this restaurant and he saw her and she looked so beautiful. And he was like, why would a girl like that ever talk to someone like me? And then he has a piece of advice. And he says, when you're really nervous about something, he's like, sometimes all it takes is like 7 seconds of insane courage. And he's like, so I opened the door, he walked, and then obviously he talked to her and they got married. But sometimes it just takes 7 seconds of insane courage to put it out there. And maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't come out quite the way you want it to. But really, the only way to get better at saying our opinions is to say our opinions. Like, that's it. We have to say, you know what? I'm willing to take the risk. And maybe you say, all right, I'm not going to say it in front of everybody. Maybe you pull the leader aside, after a meeting and you say, okay, I wanted to say this in the meeting and I didn't. And I wish I would have. Here's what I wanted to say, and put it out there. But if you're that person and you like to keep things to yourself, it's like really the only way to get better at it is to do it.
Yeah.
Experience breeds experience.
7 seconds of insane courage. Yeah, in those moments. And then pulling them aside if you really didn't get the chance to do that in the meeting.
Yeah.
I like that.
And another thing you can do, so they'll use this in negotiations sometimes, but you're almost going to kind of preface your comment. And so what I mean by that is if you have an idea, if you're in a meeting and you have an idea, people are throwing things out and you're not 100% sure if you should say it, if you shouldn't say it, even just a simple statement at the beginning to say, hey, I could be totally off base here, and then throw your idea out. Hey, I don't know if this is relevant.
Yeah.
And put your idea out. But by almost phrasing it, like, I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up.
Yeah.
And then say our idea. By putting something on the front end, it can just help us feel a little bit safer. Like we're saying, hey, I might be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Here's a thought I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're opening the door for maybe this is a good idea. Maybe it's not. Maybe people have different opinions. But sometimes just saying a little phrase like that at the beginning helps us feel more confident in speaking up.
Yeah.
Instead of just keeping it in.
Yeah, and it's like when people hear that, they're like, oh yeah, like tell us, or they're more receptive when preface it like that, or like, hey, if I may add to the point that was being said, right, and we bring in our own perspective.
Sometimes it's not even about just being quiet with our words. Sometimes it's like being quiet with our actions too. Right? We'll walk into a meeting and you sit in the farthest seat.
Yeah.
You immediately pop open your laptop and you put your head down. You're not just being quiet with your words, but you're also being quiet with your actions. Like, what are some of those little things that we can do to maybe make yourself heard? Right? Go sit at the head of the table. Show up early. Instead of creeping in at the last minute, be there early. And then as people walk in, say hello to them. Raise your hand and volunteer to be on a committee for something. Or to be part of like a strategic planning brainstorm or to take on a new project. Sometimes it's not even just the words that we say, that make us be quiet and unseen and unheard, but it's our actions. We've all got actions we can take, that show a little more confidence, help us put ourselves out there. Yeah,
and like you say, experience breeds experience, right? So the more we do it, the more confidence we gain.
So a lot of times when we're in training, I'll ask clients, when's the last time you were outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
And sometimes people have to think really hard. They do. Yeah. They're like, gosh, what's the last, whether it's something they said or something they did. And it's eye-opening, I think, for people because they realize just how much of their life and just how much of what they're doing is just in their bubble. When in reality, like, the more we expand our comfort zone, the more we stretch that comfort zone, the more likely we are to speak up. Or to raise our hand, you know, or to do whatever it is that might scare us or make us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's possible to, it is possible to expand the comfort zone. Like, instead of just like stepping out, you can, the more you do things that challenge you, you expand it. So a question for you would be, what is something that took you outside of your comfort zone lately?
Well, I just went to North Carolina for a ninja competition. And it's one thing to compete in St. Louis, like at my gym with, you know, 20 people. It's a whole other thing when you're in the middle of an arena with thousands of people. That is stressful.
Yes.
That is stressful. And so to like get up on the starting line and like have the confidence to go do it, that expands my comfort zone every time. Yeah. For sure. That's awesome. I think the important thing, though, is it's not necessarily about how big it is or how loud we speak out, but if we don't ever make our voice heard, if we always keep it in, people will start to think you're not capable or that you're not competent. And that is probably not fair, but it's the way things are. And so if we want to be seen as a leader, if we want to be seen as someone who brings value, we have to speak up. Like, we have to be willing to put ourselves out there. Otherwise, people will look over us. And it's not to say, like, it constantly has to be raising our hand or speaking up in a meeting. It's also speaking up with our actions. And getting our opinions and our voice heard. When they look at individuals in organizations, I mean, Wall Street Journal, they found like half of the population is introverts, and then half is, you know, leaning towards extrovert, and then there's like 16% or whatever of people who are like extreme extroverts, right? And as we move up into the senior roles, we see more and more people being extroverts. That's not to say, because, you know, I have to be loud in a room. It's like, what is the value that I'm bringing, and how can I voice that either in front of the room or behind the scene, but making sure that when we have something we want to say, follow through with it and speak with our actions instead of being quiet, because we're not helping anybody. We're not helping ourselves. Correct.
We're not helping the organization or the team by being quiet. Yeah,
and your voice matters. It does. Like, at the end of the day, every voice matters. Having different perspectives matters. Having different ways of thinking matters. And so finding those opportunities, even if it's a small opportunity, to speak up. If people in the office are saying, where should we go to lunch today? It's a small opportunity. The stakes aren't very high, but speak up. And the more we find those opportunities, again, like, start small. You know, what day do we want to have this meeting? Who should we, start? It doesn't have to be, I have an idea that we need to totally shift a full line of business and how we're going to, it could be a small thing. But find those opportunities to speak up, because your voice does matter.
Yeah, start small. Find opportunities to do it.
We have an opportunity for you right now, Tree Fam. That opportunity is called trivia. So today, our trivia is all about things, people that were loud or quiet. So we've got 5 questions, roughly 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. John Krasinski starred in what horror movie where the characters had to be silent?
Quiet Place.
Very good. What type of animal is regarded as the loudest in the world?
Oh, God. Geese.
No. Melophobia is a fear of what?
Melophobia is a fear of loud noises.
No. Who is the youngest male recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize for his leadership in the civil rights movement?
The youngest? I feel like I might know. I don't know.
And number 5, the lyrics, Say What You Want to Say and Let the Words Fall Out by Sarah Bareilles are from what song?
I don't
want to see you be. Okay, I'll tell you in a minute. Now you just made me sing for nothing. I thought that was going to give you the clue. Okay, you knew the John Krasinski movie, A Quiet Place. I've never seen it. Have you?
You've never seen it?
No.
Yeah, also a sequel to that.
Is it good or bad?
I liked it.
See, I don't really like horror movies, though.
It's like thriller / horror movie. It's more of a thriller, I would say.
I'm probably not going to watch it still.
Okay.
Sorry, John Krasinski.
Thanks for not being quiet with your opinion.
Okay, the loudest animal in the world is a whale. More
I was just going to say whale.
A sperm whale is apparently the loudest animal in the world.
I was just going to... God dang it. Okay.
Okay, melophobia is a fear of music.
Oh.
I know. I do not have melophobia.
Fear
I love
of music? Who has a fear of music?
I don't know, but I feel bad for them. There's not a lot in life where you can go or do that there's not music playing. That would not be fun.
Who has a fear of music?
Okay, Trey, I thought you would get this one. The youngest male recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize for his leadership in the civil rights movement was Martin Luther King Jr.
He's the youngest?
Yeah, he was the youngest ever.
Somehow I thought of Malcolm X in my head.
Oh, no, Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, and then the last word, the Sarah Bareilles song. Say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Brave. Well, I'm not singing it again. You got one sing out of me, and that was all. So now you can just listen to it on Spotify.
It's not the first time you sing on this podcast.
I know, but no times I sing doesn't go well for anyone, okay? I only did it to try to help you.
Oh, man. I should not have been quiet about the whales. I should have said whale.
Yeah, you
now
should.
I'm mad at myself. See? I should not have been... I had it in my head. And then I chose something else.
You chose goose.
They're pretty loud when they fly.
I know, but the loud... I should not criticize your guess, Tree. That was definitely a guess. All right, so everybody, don't forget, whatever you're dealing with right now, don't be quiet. Find an opportunity to speak up. Your voice matters, and the actions you take matter. We will see you next time on another episode of Hey, Don't Do That. Bye, everybody.
Good work.